The Buddha defined the human being as a five aggregate. Means you have the first aggregate of form, which is the physical body. Then you have a mind trapped inside the physical body. And this mind, the Buddha subdivided into four more aggregates. To understand this aggregate, you ask yourself through inquiry, what can your mind do? Then you can actually, on your own, find out and come up with an understanding. Basically, our mind can feel whether hot or cold. We have sensation. So feeling is an aggregate. Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling. Hot or cold. That sensation part. So that is the first aggregate of mind, feeling. Then our mind can also perceive things. That's why through our consciousness, seeing consciousness, hearing, smell, taste, tactile, and thought consciousness, we can perceive the phenomenal world, the external manifestation of mind. So perception is another aggregate of mind, where this is a quality of mind. The mind can perceive. Like when I see things, I can perceive the sight and sound through my seeing consciousness and hearing consciousness. Then when I listen to people speak or music, people singing, I can perceive their voice, their music. So perception is a quality of mind, and it's the second aggregate. Then what else can your mind do? We should inquire. Every day the mind do those things. What is it? The mind think a lot. And what is thinking? Thinking is mental activity. So mental activity can give rise to a lot of thought process, thinking. So thinking can condition emotion, which is also part of the third aggregate of mind. The Buddha called it sankhara. In fact, sankhara is everything that the mind can do, including feeling and perception. So all your planning, scheming, your mental states, pleasant, unpleasant, tranquility, stillness, every aspect of mind state, restlessness of mind, fear, worry, anxiety, sorrow, lamentation, all these are manifestation of sankhara, mental activity, mental states. Then it can also create mental formation, mental movement. That's why all your planning, scheming, craving, desire, they are part of sankhara. Then finally, our mind is also capable of being conscious. It can make us conscious. That's why the fourth aggregate is consciousness. We can be conscious of what we see, conscious of what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we tactily feel and think. So this sixth sense door can give rise to six types of corresponding sense of consciousness. So these four aggregate of mind, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, or feeling, perception, mental activity, and consciousness, they are aggregates of mind. So these four, combined with the physical body, the form the first aspect of the five aggregate of form and mind, which is the human being. So our own form and mind as a human being is the first aspect of the five aggregate of form and mind. Then beyond that, there is another aspect which the Buddha called it the thought process, the namaru, the five aggregate of form and mind within the thought process. So within the mind, we know there are four aggregates. Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Then how does the form enters the mind? It enters the mind through the perception aggregate of sanya. When we perceive something, the external form comes in. Like when we perceive the Buddha Rupang or my voice. These are mental objects or external form. They enters the mind. So when they enter the mind will also have the 5 aggregates of form mind. So the external form has entered the mind through the thought process. That's why the Namaru, when it comes to the 12 link, Avijja Pacaya Sankara, dependent on ignorance, it trigger off Sankara, mental activity. So mental activity is the thought process. So mental activity creates thinking. Yeah. So our brain is also an organ. So when the mind make contact with the brain, that's why it creates thinking. It triggers off thought consciousness, like the physics experiment. Upon contact, the light bulb light up. So thought consciousness arises. So this is how the third link arises. From avijja, it conditions sankara. Avijja pacaya sankara. Then sankara pacaya vijnana. Vijnana is the thought consciousness. That is before you input the content of consciousness. That's why after the third link, vijnana pacaya namarupang, the fourth link. That one is your thought process, your 5 aggregate of form and mind, the mental 5 aggregate. So don't get that one wrong. Under Paticca Samuppada, this one is the mental 5 aggregate, the second aspect. So when you understand this, then you will understand the Buddha Dharma. Then when you meditate on it, you silence your mind, you develop awareness, you will see clearly that the 5 aggregate of form and mind, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, and Sankara, by the first aspect or second aspect, they are all impermanent. They have these universal characteristics of impermanent. And they lead to suffering, dukkha. And because they are impermanent, it's not a permanent unchanging entity that you can cling on to, hold on to, grasp onto and say, this is me, this is I. That is where the Sakaya Ditti is. That's why the teaching is about non-self. And because it's impermanent, not a permanent and changing entity, that's why it will lead to non-self and empty nature of existence, where everything is dependent, originating, condition arising, causal phenomenon. So understanding impermanent is very important. What is anicca? Anicca means change, dependent on something, something arises. Then when this thing arises, you will condition something else. That's why dependent originating. And it keep on moving in a state of flux. That's why we call our world, the existential world, a condition arising world. And condition arising world give rise to the phenomenal world. Because it's condition arising, that's how phenomena come to be. When causes and conditions are there, things arise. When causes and conditions cease to be, things cease to be. But the world is a phenomenal world in a state of flux, constantly evolving, moving, changing, because it's an interaction between consciousness. And consciousness is the driving force, the energy that actually created the phenomenal world of form. That's why without the understanding of this science, technology, and through the spiritual law, we cannot understand the universe, we cannot understand our own creation, our own form and mind. So Sakaya Ditti is self-delusion that didn't have the ability to develop this understanding. That's why we will grow up. So we will thinking that the form and mind is real, thinking that we are a permanent, unchanging entity that exists. That's why we think we exist, we are real. That's why we want to own things, we want to possess things, we want to have things. We will develop all the evil roots of craving, desire, lust, selfishness, attachment, emotional negativity, anger, hatred, violence, followed by all the fear, worry, anxiety, sorrow, and lament. All these are evil roots, roots of all evil. So this is how we should develop the understanding of the three evil roots and the understanding of Buddha Dharma. So Sakaya Ditti is not only you don't study the Buddha Dharma, it's because of that Sakaya Ditti, the self-delusion. You don't understand the form and mind. You don't understand who you are, what you are. That's why you can't break free. You will develop the wrong view, the delusion, to attach, to cling, to corrupt, and give meaning. That's why human being can be like afflicted by karmic conditioning, karmic friction. So these are basically the essential understanding that a cultivator should develop. When you have such understanding means you are no longer deluded, ignorant. Then you can understand life, you can live life, and you can have the noble life. And you will know how to avoid all evil to good and purify the mind following the advice of Paul Buddha to cultivate this Dhamma.